Look at the room you're sitting in, the height of the ceiling, the path of the light, the way a door frame guides you from one space to another. None of it happened by accident. An architect saw a possibility in empty space. They chose a foundation. They designed load, bearing walls for strength and windows for air and vision. They decided what would be solid and what would be open to the sky. Now, look at the life you're living. The structures of your days, the walls of your habits, the floor plan of your relationships, your work, your time. Did you design them, or did you just wander into them? Are you living in a house built by someone else's hand, following someone else's blueprint? She lets the question hang, her gaze softening with empathy. We are so often just tenants, curators of furniture we didn't choose, in rooms we didn't shape, trying to paint over walls that don't suit us. We complain about the draft, but we never ask if we could move a window. We feel trapped in small spaces, but we never consider that we have the right, the profound responsibility, to redesign. Today, I want to suggest something simple and seismic: stop being a tenant. Stop being a decorator, become the architect. Her hands begin to shape the ideas in the air, her tone becoming more deliberate. An architect begins with two things, a vision and a site survey. The vision is your dream, the feeling, the purpose, the light you want to live in. But the site survey, that is ruthless honesty. You must walk the land of your own life as it exists, not as you wish it were. You must test the soil of your energy. You must note the existing, perhaps shaky, foundations of your past choices. You must see clearly where the light already falls and where the deep, permanent shadows are. You cannot design from fantasy. You design from truth. Then you pick up your tools. Your first tool is intention. Intention is the blueprint. It is the line you draw between what you will bear and what you will open up. It is saying, this wall, this boundary goes here to protect the quiet core of me. This great window, this vulnerability goes here to welcome love and new perspective. Your second tool is choice. The architect does not use because it's there as a reason to keep a load, bearing wall that's cracking. If a structure is no longer sound, if it no longer serves the vision, it must be deconstructed. With care, but without sentiment, a choice is a decision made for the future, not an apology for the past. Her voice lowers, becoming more intimate, more urgent. This will mean demolition. It will be noisy and messy. You will have to take down facades you built to please other people. You will have to pull up floors of habit that are uneven and worn. You may have to expose the raw plumbing of your emotions, the wiring of your old fears. It is uncomfortable, it is necessary, because architecture is not just about building. It is about creating space for a specific kind of life to happen within it. What life do you want to happen within your days? Do you want a life of connection? Then you must design gathering spaces into your weeks. Do you want a life of creativity? Then you must design a studio, a protected, sacred corner of your time and attention. Do you want a life of peace? Then you must design corridors that lead to silence, and walls thick enough to keep out the noise of the world that does not serve you. She stands perfectly still, her conviction filling the silence. You are not clay to be shaped. You are the shaper. You are not a book already written. You are the author, and you are not a room to be filled. You are the architect. So pick up your blueprint. Look at the site of yourself with all its beautiful, complicated topography. And begin, lay one intentional stone, frame one true window. Do not wait for permission from the ghosts of old landlords. Build a life not of happenstance, but of design. A life that doesn't just house you, but one that, in its very structure, sets you free. This metaphor is the speech's central generative engine. It works so powerfully because it reframes our entire relationship to our own existence from one of passive reception to active, skilled creation. A tenant is a consumer of space. Their agency is limited to curation, arranging furniture, hanging art, complaining about a leak. Their relationship to the structure is one of adaptation and accommodation. They work within immutable constraints. The walls are given. The floor plan is fixed. Their power lies in reaction and minor modification. This, the speech suggests, is how most of us live. We inhabit lives built from inherited blueprints, societal expectations, familial pressures, educational tracks, corporate ladders. We decorate these prefabricated structures with our personal tastes, our hobbies, our friend groups, our aesthetics, but we rarely question the architecture itself. Is the room too small for our spirit? Is the foundation cracked? We assume it is our job to make do, to shrink to fit, to find better decor to distract from the poor design. The architect, in stark contrast, operates at the level of first principles. Before any furniture is chosen, the architect asks the fundamental questions. What is this space for? How should movement flow through it? Where does the light come from? And how can we invite it in? What must be solid and what can be open? The architect deals with load, bearing walls and foundational slabs. They are concerned with purpose, integrity, and the relationship between form and function. To become the architect of your life is to step back from the daily grind of decoration and tenant complaints, and to ask these structural questions of your own existence. What is the foundational purpose of my life? What are the load, bearing values that must support everything else? Where do I need to build boundaries walls for strength and safety? And where do I need openings, windows, doors for light, connection, and growth? This shift in identity from tenant to architect is profoundly empowering and equally demanding. It transfers authority. The tenant seeks permission from a landlord, external validation, societal approval. The architect, possessing the vision and the skill, grants permission to themselves. It also changes the nature of responsibility. A tenant can blame a drafty room on a poor builder. An architect must look at their own blueprint and ask where the design flaw originated. This metaphor thus does two vital things. It expands our sense of possible agency. We can redesign, not just redecorate, and it deepens our sense of personal responsibility. The design, for better or worse, is ultimately ours to own and alter. It moves us from the feeling of being trapped in a house we didn't build to the realization that we have always held the pencil and the drafting paper. We just didn't know it, or we were too afraid to start drawing. The speech's entire argument hinges on convincing us to lay down the paintbrush of the decorator and pick up the drafting pencil of the creator, to stop asking for permission to repaint the walls and start asking ourselves what kind of edifice we truly wish to inhabit from the ground up. This two-part process establishes a vital, non-negotiable discipline for effective self-creation, acting as the essential bridge between inspiration and execution. The vision represents the dream in its pure aspirational form. It is the feeling, the purpose, the light. It's the answer to the architect's first and most important question. What is this space for? Is it a home for quiet contemplation or vibrant gathering? A workshop for relentless creation or a sanctuary for restorative peace? This vision is the North Star. It is the emotional and spiritual why that will guide every subsequent decision, from the largest beam to the smallest finish. Without this clear vision, any construction is aimless, vulnerable to every passing trend and external demand, resulting in a disjointed, incoherent structure, a life of add-ons and afterthoughts that never coheres into a purposeful whole. However, a vision built on sand is a fantasy that will collapse. This is where the ruthless site survey comes in. This is the unflinching, pragmatic counterpart to the dream. If the vision is the ideal blueprint, the site survey is the reality of the plot of land upon which you must build. You cannot design in a vacuum. You must walk the actual terrain of your current life. This means assessing the soil of your energy. Are you building on bedrock of resilience or the shale of burnout? It means examining the existing foundations of your past choices, some of which may be solid and others cracked or sinking. It requires mapping the permanent shadows cast by past traumas or immutable limitations, as well as charting the existing light. Of your current strengths, relationships, and resources, this survey demands brutal honesty, divorcing sentiment from fact. You must see the awkward, poorly placed room, the draining job, for what it is, not for the memory of when you first moved in. You must note the faulty wiring, the unhealthy habit, not as a quirk, but as a fire hazard. The genius of this keynote is in the necessary tension it creates. The vision pulls you toward the future with desire. The site survey roots you in the present with truth. One without the other is useless or dangerous. A vision without a survey is naive, leading to plans for a skyscraper on a swamp. A survey without a vision is cynical, leading only to minor repairs on a structure you've resigned yourself to forever. Together, they create the dynamic field where real architecture happens. The vision informs what you must build toward. The survey dictates what you must build from and what you must first dismantle. This process forces you to reconcile your dreams with your reality, not by shrinking the dream, but by intelligently, strategically engineering a path from the literal, factual here to the aspirational there. It is the ultimate act of grounding your aspirations in the raw materials of your actual existence, ensuring that the first line you draw on your new blueprint is one of clear-eyed, courageous truth. This delineation of tools moves the metaphor from a passive state of envisioning into the active phase of construction and, crucially, deconstruction. Intention is framed not as a vague wish, but as the precise, technical blueprint. In architecture, the blueprint is the master plan. It is the set of decisions that dictates function, flow, and form before a single nail is hammered. It is proactive and declarative. To wield intention as a tool means to move from asking, "What's happening to me?" to declaring, "This is what I will build." Specifically, the speech defines intention as the act of drawing lines, the line of a boundary, a wall to protect the quiet core, and the line of an opening, a vulnerability, a window, to welcome love and new perspective. This reframes two often feared concepts, boundaries and vulnerability, as essential, deliberate acts of skilled design, not reactions of fear or neediness. You are not building walls because you are antisocial. You are engineering them for structural integrity. You are not installing windows because you are weak. You are placing them to strategically illuminate and connect. If intention is the plan, choice is the labor, and the speech assigns choice a specific, powerful function. It is the tool of demolition and deconstruction. This is a critical, often overlooked aspect of becoming the architect of your life. We like to think of creation as adding new, beautiful things, but before a new wing can be built, an old, unstable structure often must be torn down. The architect, the speech insists, does not use because it's there as a reason to keep a load, bearing wall that's cracking. This tool requires a clear-eyed, unsentimental assessment. Is this habit, this relationship, this belief system still structurally sound? Does it bear the weight of my future vision, or is it fracturing under the pressure? Choice, wielded with this architectural mindset, becomes the courageous act of deciding to take something down with care, but without sentiment. The care is for the self that will inhabit the new space. The lack of sentiment is for the old structure that no longer serves. Furthermore, the speech defines choice as a decision made for the future, not an apology for the past. This separates the architect's choice from the tenant's regret. A tenant might make a choice rooted in guilt, obligation, or a desire to make up for past mistake, painting over mold instead of fixing the leak. An architect makes a choice based on the integrity of the future design. Will this decision support the vision? This tool, therefore, requires both courage and foresight. It is the sledgehammer and the scalpel. It is the willingness to create dust and debris in the short term, to endure the noisy and messy phase of ending things, changing routines, and disrupting comfort, in order to create a stable, purposeful foundation for what is to come. Intention draws the dream, choice clears the ground and lays the first true stone. This principle elevates the entire architectural endeavor from a mere exercise in self-improvement to a profound act of existential engineering. It moves beyond the question of what do I want to be, to the more foundational and practical question, what do I want to happen within the space of my life? Architecture, in its purest form, is not about the building as an object to be admired, but about the human experience it frames and facilitates. A cathedral is designed to inspire awe and communal worship. A library is designed to facilitate quiet, focused study. The form follows a deeply considered function. Applying this to a life means that every structural choice, how you design your time, your relationships, your attention, must be in service of creating the conditions for a specific quality of existence to emerge. The speech makes this actionable with direct examples. If the desired life is one of connection, then the architecture must include intentional gathering spaces. This translates not as hoping for friends, but as structurally designing your weeks to include regular, non-negotiable points of communion. A standing dinner date, a book club, a committed phone call. You are building the porch, the kitchen table, the hearth into your schedule. If the desired life is one of creativity, you cannot leave it to chance inspiration. You must design a studio, a protected, sacred corner of your time and attention that is explicitly reserved for the act of making, free from the demands of productivity or consumption. This is a dedicated room in the blueprint of your week, with its own door you can close. If the desired life is one of peace, the architecture must include corridors that lead to silence, and walls thick enough to keep out the noise. This means designing rituals of transition corridors that help you move from the noisy world into quiet reflection, and establishing formidable boundaries walls against the intrusions of digital clamor, others' emergencies, and your own anxious impulses. This approach flips the script on how we pursue our values. We often think, when I feel connected, I will socialize, or when I feel inspired, I will create. This architecture keynote argues the opposite. You must first design the space for the activity, and the feeling will follow. You build the gathering space, and connection becomes more likely to occur within it. You build the studio, and creativity has a home to inhabit. You build the silent corridor, and peace finds its path to you. The structure itself is an invitation to a specific mode of being. It removes the burden from fleeting motivation and places it on deliberate, intelligent design. You are not waiting to feel like a creative person. You are acting as the architect who believes so deeply in creativity that you build a room for it, trusting that by creating the space, you are creating the condition for that part of your life to thrive. The life doesn't just happen to you in a random space. It flourishes within the space you have mindfully architected to cultivate its very essence. This final movement is a profound act of reclamation, a deliberate shift in identity from the object of creation to its originating source. Throughout our lives, we are often spoken of, and come to think of ourselves, as material to be shaped. We are the clay on the potter's wheel of circumstance, education, and relationship. We are the book being written by our parents, our culture, our trauma, and our triumph. We are the room to be filled with experiences, knowledge, and the expectations of others. These metaphors, while poetic, place us in a passive, receptive role. Our agency is limited to how well we react to the shaping, how compellingly our story is told, how tastefully our room is decorated. The architect's speech definitively shatters this passive identity. You are not the medium, you are the shaper. You are not the narrative, you are the author. You are not the enclosed space, you are the architect. This is a transition from being a noun to being a verb. It is the claim of creative sovereignty. This reclamation is the psychological cornerstone of the entire philosophy. Until you internalize this shift, the previous 4 keynotes are merely interesting ideas. You can understand the tenant/architect metaphor, you can conduct a site survey, you can hold the tools of intention and choice, and you can intellectually grasp purposeful design. But if at your core you still believe you are the clay, you will always be waiting for a different potter. To declare yourself the architect is to seize the authority of authorship. It means the ghosts of old landlords, those internalized voices of past authorities, societal norms, and limiting beliefs are evicted. They have no legal claim to the property of your soul. You hold the deed, you possess the vision and the right to build. This is an act of immense psychological liberation and equally immense responsibility. There is no one left to blame for a drafty room, but there is also no one who can deny you the right to install a new window. The culmination of this keynote is an explicit call to action rooted in this new identity. Pick up your blueprint is a directive that only makes sense if you have accepted that the blueprint is yours to draw. Look at the sight of yourself is only possible when you see yourself as both the landscape and the surveyor. Lay one intentional stone is the first act of the shaper, not the clay. This final keynote is the permission slip and the mandate rolled into one. It does not promise ease. The work of architecture is difficult. But it grants legitimacy and dignity to the struggle. The mess of demolition, the strain of lifting a new beam into place, the uncertainty of an open floor plan, these are no longer the sufferings of a victim, but the productive labors of a creator. You are building, and the very act of building, from a place of claimed authorship, is what transforms a life of happenstance into a life of design. The freedom promised at the end is not freedom from effort, but the profound freedom of self-determination. The liberty that comes from knowing the structure you inhabit is one you consciously, courageously, and skillfully design to set your own spirit free.